This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City FC head back into the MLS regular season as they host Minnesota United in Queens. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
Are you there? There.
I am here, and it was last night.
It was last night. I watched it. I watched that, then got up early to watch the World Cup, which those start times have been 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So it was the World Cup final, and England, I'm sorry to say, Matty, dropped a 2-1 decision to Spain. And the better team won, I'll have to say. Just a quick recap of the Women's World Cup, and it was a first-time winner. Whoever won, it was going to be a first-time winner. Yep. And England, they could be proud, European champions, and just falling a little short.
Yeah, I think they did. Listening to Nick Cushing, as I'm sure people will, to his interview later with you, he was quietly confident, I think. And I don't think he was being biased, being an Englishman, the same as myself. But he thought that if England performed
I think the fact that he coached 5 of the players on the team, I think he was a little biased. But yeah.
He said that if they performed to the best of their ability, he thought they would win. And my assumption was they didn't perform to the best of their ability. The start times are not conducive to my life, so I must admit I wasn't up watching it.
I watched very closely. I was up, and I like that type of football. And for me, the better team won, the better playing team won. Doesn't always work that way.
Doesn't.
The team that keeps the ball the best and gets the most opportunities doesn't always win a match like that. But Spain did. It was 1-0 the final. And so we have a new World Cup champion on the women's side. This was the 9th ever World Cup. Here, we've got Major League Soccer at Citi Field. Citi Field, there it is again. And that big video board that we get to look at during the course of the game. If we have a television monitor in our booth as well, where we can see replays. But if they show them up there, it's probably it's more clear to see it up there. So, Matty, this long layoff due to the fact that New York City, their last game they played in the Leagues Cup, they dropped a 1-0 decision to Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena. And that was preceded by a regular season loss, the last MLS game at Philly, losing 2-1. So a lot of new faces here, including one Maxi Morales. We'll get to that in a moment. But coming into this final stretch of 10 games, 7 of them at home, the first of those home games today, what do you think?
Everything has to gel. Everything has to come together. It hasn't been together for the last 24 MLS games. It certainly wasn't together for Leagues Cup play either. Yes, there was the 5-0 win against Toronto, but I think that us 3 here in the booth and 7, maybe 6 of our mates could have gone out and beaten that Toronto side. That's a massive anomaly. That's for certain.
I want to play up top. By the way,
you can play up top. You'd been fine. You'd have scored a couple. They were that bad, and I'm only semi-joking. They are that bad. We can't count that. What you have to look at is the last 17 games in all competitions that NYCFC have played in, and they've only scored more than 1 in one other game, and that was the 2-2 away draw at Atlanta. That's all of those games are post the 3-1 win against Dallas. So to only have scored really more than 1 goal in one of those games, because I say the TFC game is a total anomaly for me. That's not good enough, and that is why I say things need to become cohesive. They need to gel. And yes, we know there's new players coming into the side, but that can't be an excuse. It can't be an excuse. There's new players, or the players are young. These players have been together for 24 games of an MLS season, and they've been together for a Leagues Cup. They went away to Austin and played in a friendly. They had pre-season together as well. This is not a new team anymore. This team has been together for a lot of games, and it has to start gelling. And I know that Chris Tsakonas, just behind us, has put together, average points total and things like that. I think for me, you've got to win 6 of your last 10 games to stand any chance or even deserve to be in the playoffs?
Well, let's give the specific.
Sure.
Chris, who is behind us here, part of our broadcast team, diligently looked through this, and the last 3 full seasons, again, this is from Chris Sakonis, looking at the 9th place team, whether it was 9 in the playoffs or not, looking at the 9th place team in both the East and West, the average was 43 points, and the range of those who qualified or finished 9th was 41 to 47. So New York City starts the night on 26 points. There's 10 games remaining. So according to Chris's calculations, based on those things preceding, New York City would need 15 of 21 points to reach the range.
Yes.
So that's 5 wins minimum to get to the range, and then of course there's no guarantee.
I said 6, 5 wins and 3 draws, and the average obviously is the average is 43. The lowest figure is 41, so that is just 5 wins and 5 losses. Look, if you don't get 5 wins and 5 losses from your last 10 games, looking down at the teams you've got to play against as well, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. The games that they've got left to play, they're at home to Vancouver, at home to Montreal, at home today against Minnesota, at home to Toronto, at home to Chicago, at home to Orlando. You've got to be able to win 5 of those 7 home games to stand any chance of getting in. But to be deserving, forget the points total, to be deserving, you've got to win them. And I know that's tough when you've only won 5 of your previous 24 games,
that's right.
And you've only scored 25 goals in 24 games. It makes it very, very difficult. We know to win games of football, you normally need to score quite often you need to score more than 1 goal.
So, Matty, if you look out at the board, you wonder if this guy is going to make any difference. He's wearing 27. His name is Maxi Morales, and he is back for New York City FC. After training yesterday, I spoke to Nick Cushy, the head coach for New York City, about Maxi's return.
Maxi Morales, the deal come up really quickly, and Maxi expressed a want to return. David and Brad initially asked me, did I think it was something that would fit within the plans of the team, and I agreed. I think I went through 3 conversations with Maxi. I think when a guy leaves and the team evolves, not just from him but from all of the guys that weren't within the team, is natural to have a conversation around my expectations and his expectations. Maxi has been exceptional for me since I took the head coach's role, and last year was a really important guy for me. In my opinion, through all of the time I've been here and previously, he's the most important player New York City's ever had. So to have the opportunity to have the discussion was one that I was not going to turn down. And I think there was a lot of extensive conversations, but I think for me it was really simple. What I heard and what I saw was a guy that is even more motivated than he's ever been to perform and to win for New York City FC. And that really enthused me. And I understand there's opinion around a guy returning, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I look this guy in the eye and speak to him, and I see somebody that has incredible hunger to come back here and be a really important guy.
All right, so the expectation is Nick would say that Maxi is motivated. I think the thing we learned from Maxi is that he contacted New York City FC. That's one thing. And a quote from Maxi yesterday. Maxi was involved in the presser with the Spanish translator Esteban Camino, but he said, when I left, meaning for Racing, I thought I was going to play the rest of my days in Argentina. I thought I was going to be a key player there. I didn't get the type of playing time I was hoping for, and the country wasn't the same either. So Maxi has a young family. He didn't really specify what that meant, but he did have a strong desire to come back.
Yeah, he did. And look, he said it there. I was just about to say, I've just brought up the Racing fixtures. And look, if things had have gone well in Argentina, family-wise and certainly football-wise, he would have been there. They've got the quarter-final of the Copa Conmebol Libertadores coming up against Boca Juniors. It doesn't become much bigger than that. Yeah. They've got a round of 16 Copa Argentina game against Huracan. That's coming up as well. So, yes, look, things didn't go well from the footballing sense, so he wanted to go elsewhere. And look, there's only one place that he wanted to go, having a young family, as you've said. Yes, economically, things have changed massively in Argentina since he left. I think that the country, look, I'm not Argentinian. I spend a lot of time working on Argentinian games and speaking to Argentinian people. So I know that the country is on a downward turn. I will just leave it at that, downward turn, certainly economically.
Yeah.
And he's alluded to that. He said the same as well. The country wasn't the same. If he's going to leave Argentina, his home country, there was only ever one place he wanted to come, and that's NYCFC in New York City. He understands the city, he understands the football, and he knows that his family will be safe, very well looked after by the group, the City group and the football club. It makes perfect sense. So, yes, we call him a new player, but no, he's not. He's not a new player.
Nick Cushing expects a seamless transition,
Yes.
I would say, because he's in the
Absolutely.
starting 11 tonight. As you can see, the 11 is scrolling. One of the newcomers, Burke Risa, will start at left central defense. It appears that New York City will play in a 4-3-3. That means Maxime Chenot is on the bench at the start of this one. And then Julian Fernandez, Alonso Martinez, and Andres Perea are all on the bench as well. So with this added depth, Andres Jason and Gabe Siegel, they were seen in the parking lot, kind of having a good time with the supporters. There's a big festival going on out there, so they were out there showing themselves and hanging a little bit. And, this is, greater depth sometimes causes those that have been in there regularly to be on the sideline.
Yeah, look, I've been in that position before. Luckily, not many times in my career. But believe you me, the last place they wanted to be was in the car park, entertaining the fans. And so credit to them for doing that, because what they wanted to be doing was starting first and foremost. And if they're not starting, they want to be on the bench. So I give them, as young men, credit for going out there and doing their professional duties. Although, in the being out in the community is not what they wanted to be doing today on a match day. But as I say, hand on heart, I've been there, done that, and I'm, as an older player, I probably would have thrown my toys out of the pram and jumped back on the subway and gone elsewhere. That's for certain. So give them credit for doing that. But yes, strength in depth. You've got two good young players there who aren't even dressing today. They're not even in the squad. So I think that tells you the direction NYCFC are going in now. But Glenn, there's only 10 games remaining, and everything needs to gel. It needs to be perfect, not perfect, but it needs to be a real good togetherness and a cohesion starting from now, however many minutes time it is, 20 minutes time when this game kicks off.
One of the other changes also is Luis Barraza back in goal for Matt Freese, who played the last two Leagues Cup matches, the clean sheet against Toronto and the 1-0 defeat to the Red Bulls on a penalty. He was beaten on a penalty, so I don't know, is that surprising to you? Or
yes.
I will say one thing publicly. I said pick a keeper and go through the final 10. So decide which keeper that's going to be. I'm not saying that necessarily, and that I did ask Nick Cushing that. Pregame show, by the way, 7:15 on the New York City FC network, which is the NYCFC app, nycfc.com/radio. Cushing talks about a trip to West Point during this 16-day break, where the team did some bonding exercises and also some, I don't know the exact exercises, but we do know one of the communication staff sprained his ankle. So fortunately, it wasn't Munsef Bakrar, but did that, and also the trip to Austin. So we're going to hear all about that with Nick. But what do you think about Barraza for Freeze?
I'm surprised. There's two big surprises for me, because I always thought, and for me, I was always told as a player, you earn your right to wear the shirt, and you earn that by getting in the starting 11 to start off with, and then performing to the best of your ability, or to nigh on the best of your ability. And I thought Matt Freese, and specifically more Maxime Chenot, have done that, and I'm surprised that neither of those are starting. Of course, Nick Cushing, that's why he gets paid the big bucks. He is the head coach, and he has every right to choose who he wants. But I am surprised at the inclusion of both Burke Risa and Luis Barraza, and the exclusion of Matt Freese and Maxime Chenot, because in my opinion, they didn't do a great deal wrong in their last 2 or 3 games. But that's just personal opinion. That's the beauty of our sport. I can have a personal opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right, or that Nick Cushing is right, or I'm wrong, or Nick Cushing is wrong. No. It's just my personal opinion. You asked me it, and I gave it to you.
My opinion was to go back to Barraza, because that's the way you want to play. You want to be able to build out of the back. And only because I say pick a keeper today, and almost no matter what happens, let it go through the final 10. And I'd like you to elaborate in 60 seconds worth of how changing keepers is difficult for the back line in front of the keeper, correct?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. You want them to be talking
a former
you
central
through the
defender
game.
on the professional
absolutely.
level. That's why I'm asking
I've
here,
played 660 professional games in front of a goalkeeper, and they talk me through the game.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And you're used to hearing that voice, and you get a relationship. A relationship gels with that voice behind you. And if that voice keeps changing, it becomes difficult to be reliant on multiple voices that you hear behind you. That's a quick one. We could go have an hour discussion about it, and it'd be a wonderful discussion as well. Yourself as a head coach,
Roberto
and me as a player.
Roberto and I will invite you on NYCFC Views, the new podcast. I hope you've subscribed and listen every week. Matty will be a guest soon. Matty, there's a new kit being introduced here, and it's green. It's called the Parks Kit, the first ever third kit honoring the civic backyard of New Yorkers, and that's the Parks. You know what I learned? I didn't know this. There are 1,700 parks in the 5 boroughs. Did you know that?
I didn't. I know that there are a bunch of beautiful parks in the 5 boroughs. I've been to Prospect Park, Central Park, Bryant Park, Madison Square Park. I've been to a bunch of other parks.
Flushing Meadows?
Flushing Meadows, of course.
Van
Cortlandt Park. Look,
you're like a New Yorker.
I'm here. I've been in New York for over a decade of my life. Unfortunately, that's only about a fifth of my life, and obviously showing my age there. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. And Parks and Rec, one of my favourite programs as well on TV, Parks and Recreation.
You have to. I have to share that with my wife Mary. That's like
so I love that show, and I love this kit as well, and I love that it's leaning towards. I'm maybe not always the most ecologically sound, but I think it's a lovely nod towards some beautiful places in New York City, which you don't always associate. Yes, of course, Central Park, but you don't always associate green space with this vast metropolis. Of course, Manhattan, but the 5 boroughs itself as well.
Final thing. Well, for Lionel Messi, we're just going to say 10 goals, 4 assists, 7 games played. The most amazing statistic with Inter Miami winning Leagues Cup on penalties against Nashville is 22 goals in 22 games in the regular year, and then through 7 Leagues Cup matches, 22 goals. They matched their goal total in the Leagues Cup. Now, obviously, Messi, for Inter Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba to a certain extent, but the Busquets Messi thing. So it's been, I know there's varying degrees of opinion about all of this, but I have to say, I'm looking forward to September 30th when we get to call a game with him on the field. That'll be an honor. To me, it's like when Pirlo came on in July of 2015. I was excited. I'd only watched Pirlo from a distance on television, and then that was the first time I saw him in person. So looking forward to that anyway. Look, and I'm cynical, Matt, but I will absolutely love the day that we get to call that game and watch Lionel Messi live. I've seen Lionel Messi live before at Camp Nou. I'm fortunate enough that I've never played against him because that would have been a bit embarrassing, but I've seen him play live at Camp Nou. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play live down in Fort Lauderdale as well. And hopefully we can tell Nick Cushing that as much as he's got it written into his contract that you're not allowed within 10 yards of him, we must inform Nick Cushing that you are allowed within 10 yards Walker, of him, and not to give him too much time and space. I hope you would defend him better than Walker Zimmerman did last night, which it was interesting that a central defender could be swayed, but it is Messi, so I guess I'll give him that. Hey, finally, I've befriended a pro referee named Alex Chilowitz. Part of it is our Jersey connection. He played for Pasco. We've talked about the day he played against Giuseppe Rossi, back in the days when Rossi was with the Stallions. And then he became a referee and was doing games in northern New Jersey. And he worked his way into full-time status with pro referees. He's going to be the 4th official today. But I drove down to Hoboken where he was visiting his parents today. And we went to this coffee place, The Roost, and had ourselves an espresso or what did I have? No, I guess I had a cafe mocha. But I really like Alex. He's a guy that some people, he's got a lot of personality, and he talks to the players. The players call him by his first name, and some people find that maybe even offensive that he kind of comparts himself in that manner. But I like him. But I mostly like him because he's also a composer and a musician. He plays the saxophone, and he's composed things that are on Broadway. He's composed things like the last 3 Star Treks. He was involved in the composition of the music in those situations, and he's a referee. So I think it's a pretty unique combination. He's a cool dude, and he'll be down as the 4th official tonight. And he told me a bunch of great stories, and they're all off the record. Sorry, I can't.
Well, what I do know is that Adrian Heath will be chirping in his ear for about 93 minutes of the game. That is for sure.
I did ask him if Adrian Heath was a whiner, and he said it's not as bad as people think.
Really?
So he'll be the 4th official.
Let's speak to him after the game and see what he says.
And I have heard that Mehdi Belushi is the one that gets under the skin of the 4th officials more so than Nick Cushing. We have the official starting line, but you see it right there. Minnesota starters: St. Clair, Tapias, Bristow, Boxall, Rosales, Reynoso, Trapp, Taylor, Dotson, Plangwane. He's the guy that's scoring all the goals.
Yep.
15 goals in all competitions. How about that? And Pookie. So that's their we don't have it written out, but that's their starting line. We got to hop off because we're going to be on the air again momentarily on the New York City FC Network. And it's back to Apple TV and the drop-down app. So listen to the live English radio commentary, the only hometown commentary you can get. And you can watch it on Apple and do the drop-down. It's synced. It's a beautiful thing. So if you're watching the game on Apple, be sure to listen to us as well. Matty, let's have a good one.
We certainly will.
Matty Lawrence, Glenn Crooks. That's Chris Sakonis way behind us, and he'll be involved in the broadcast as well. Enjoy the game, everybody.